Misuse your powers for evil. Kill?
Your evil is mine.
Hello, everybody, and welcome once again to Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast. Welcome to episode, 59, as we discuss the two Doctors. Now, with me, as always, is my partner in crime and my partner in time, Jesse Jackson.
Hey, Charles. So I have a question for you.
Yes.
Did this episode make you hungry?
Maybe for some fresh human.
Yes.
But you need to tenderize the meat.
Yes, we will have to talk about that. That was a little creepy.
So you weren't feeling like you were Shakai or the Kwanzaan Grig or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a fun one to talk about. Once again, you continue to do a great job of picking classic episodes to talk about. If I'm ever on a panel again to talk about how do you watch Doctor Who Classic, I'm going to say become friends with Charles Skaggs and then let him pick the episodes. Or, a little bit easier, just go into Next Stop Everywhere feed and look at the Classic Who episodes.
Right. I mean, you may not like every episode that I pick, but I try to at least make them interesting.
Absolutely.
So yeah, we're going to talk about the two Doctors. I thought it would be kind of nice to do a little multi-Doctor story after everything we've been through lately. Just to give a little quick overview, this one was written by Robert Holmes, who's written a number of great Doctor Who classic stories over the years, many of whom we've actually reviewed here on Next Stop Everywhere. Directed by Peter Moffat, and this was the fourth serial from season 22, way back in 1985, the year that launched Marty McFly into time and space.
The year after Linda and I got married.
Oh, really?
Yes.
So this would be your 1-year anniversary was when this episode came out.
Well, we were married June 2nd, 1984. And didn't this come out in June?
I'm not sure.
I thought I saw that somewhere, but anyway.
It's possible. I didn't look at the specific date.
Mm-hmm.
I just got the year, but
okay.
But it's entirely possible. So this could have been your anniversary story.
Yes, we could have.
All right. So this episode is obviously notable because it features the return of Patrick Troughton as the second Doctor for the first time since he appeared in 1983's The Five Doctors. And it also features the return of Frazer Hines as companion Jamie McCrimmon, James Robert McCrimmon.
And it was really good to see him. Spoilers,
Mm-hmm.
I really liked seeing Jamie again. And I'm a focus group of one saying I want to see Frazer Hines on the modern Who so bad.
Yes. I would love to see like an older Jamie McCrimmon meeting up with the 12th Doctor at some point. I think it needs to happen.
Oh.
I don't know why it hasn't happened.
I don't either.
Stephen Moffat is all about Scotland and Scottish characters, so I don't know why he hasn't brought Jamie McCrimmon back. But sadly, this was Patrick Troughton and Frazer Hines' last on-screen appearance in Doctor Who. Troughton sadly died 2 years after making this episode at a convention in Columbus, Georgia.
Oh, how sad.
Yeah, it was. And Frazer, he's still alive, thankfully. He was recently on Outlander, which of course was based on his character, Jamie McCrimmon. So
yes, one of my big regrets.
Whether the author wants to admit it or not.
No, I think she does. I think she is very quick about that. That this started as Doctor Who fan fiction.
Right.
One of my big regrets is the first year I went to Comic Palooza Frazer Hines was a guest, and
Yes.
I had not started watching Classic Who, had just barely, kind of enjoying the modern Who. We hadn't
Mhm.
started the podcast, and he was there, and I didn't go meet him.
Mhm.
And I really, I mean, don't get me wrong, that wouldn't be the first thing I do if I had a TARDIS,
Right.
but would be on the list because I would love to meet him and talk to him because I just think he's a great companion.
Yeah, that's essentially part of my, well, for me, one of my TARDIS bucket list would obviously be able to go back in time and meet Patrick Troughton or William
Yes.
Hartnell or John Pertwee.
Yes.
I think that would just be fantastic.
Hmm.
Especially Troughton and Pertwee because they were so personable at conventions and they
Yes.
really, uh, they they got the idea that, you know, that the fans loved them. They reached out. They weren't difficult about their characters. They loved talking about the show, and so I mean, obviously Patrick Troughton was doing conventions right up to his dying day, so
Yeah, that's
that
nice.
I think that says a lot. So before I get into more overview, Jesse, what's kind of like your general reaction to this story?
So sometimes a classic Who, you have to change how you watch. And we have been I have been spoiled coming from the modern era
Hmm.
that you usually get a pretty good, even on a multi-part story, you get a full story in that episode. And even this modern era of the audio dramas we just listened to,
Right.
the three parts were standalone stories, even though the second and third were kind of continued. I felt like it. This this was one of those where I feel like they've taken a story and stretched it to three episodes because that's what they do back then.
Right.
Now, do you think I'm being unfair?
No, I don't, because especially with this story, like the episodes, it's only 3 episodes, but they're three 45-minute episodes.
Yes.
So essentially, this comes out to like 2 hours, 15 minutes total.
Hmm.
And I think it could have been easily dropped back to two 45-minute episodes.
Yeah, and
And it would have been a much tighter, better story.
yeah, because I think sometimes they lose, a little bit of the focus.
Hmm. I
And
think,
go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, especially in the third episode,
Yeah,
I think a lot of that, like that whole sequence where Patrick Troughton's second doctor gets turned into an endergum. He
yeah,
goes off with Shockeye into the town of Seville,
yeah,
and they start, like they start chowing down at this restaurant. And I think that whole sequence could have been easily cut out,
yeah,
and the story would have been just fine without it.
yeah. And now, um,
I mean, it was great to see Patrick Troughton kind of hamming it up,
yes,
but yeah, I could have done without it. I could.
and
It wasn't it wasn't consequential to the overall story.
no, and it was interesting to see the actor slash manager of the restaurant, in one of the earlier parts, and then him coming back.
Right.
Um, felt like him dying really got nothing.
Hmm.
That was just kind of
Pointless.
yes.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, I'm
Oscar, the character Oscar.
yeah,
Yeah.
this kind of not.
Hmm.
I don't know. I agree with you. I don't think it's necessary. It was needed, and so I'll have to, as we get into more details, I'll
Yeah.
talk
Yeah.
about my other things.
Okay. Just real quick before we get into our main discussion, I did want to mention that this story also features Jacqueline Pierce as Chesini, or Chesini o the Franzine, as she's known in this story. But we've talked about her a lot recently because she's the one who plays Cardinal Alistra in the War Games audios that we recently covered here.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I thought that's why I kind of was in the mood to watch this story.
Hmm.
Because like, well, we've talked about Jacqueline Pierce a lot, so now you can, yeah. So the Chesini in this story was, yeah, Cardinal Lister in the War Doctor audios.
Very cool.
So, and also this features Lawrence Payne as Dastari. Now, Lawrence Payne appeared on a couple of other notable Doctor Who stories in the classic era. He played Johnny Ringo in The Gunfighters, which was a William Hartnell story. And then he played this character named Morix in The Leisure Hive, which was the first story in Tom Baker's final season.
Oh, very nice.
And then we had John Stratton as Shock Eye, who was kind of hamming it up in this episode, but he's interesting, so
Yeah.
I let it slide.
The writer of the show, Robert Holmes, so kind of putting you on the block, putting you on the spot.
Yeah,
yes, not block. Though it could be chopping
block. You're
going
to decapitate me?
Yes. It seems like he's done a fair amount of writing. What's your thoughts on him as a Doctor Who writer?
Oh, I think he's one of the better Doctor Who writers.
Okay.
He's written a number of great stories. He up until the last story that he wrote, which was part of the trial of the Time Lord. So this is actually close to the end before he died too.
Mm-hmm.
He was notable for creating the Sontarans, which is why the Sontarans kind of play a role in this story.
Okay.
There's, I'm going to say, like, off the top of my head, I think he wrote the Talons of Wing Chiang, which is a great Fourth Doctor story, and some other ones that we've covered. I wish I would have wrote it down, but I think he's one of the greater Doctor Who writers, especially from the classic era.
Yeah, there is it is not a thing against the writing. I think it's more of the kind of the tone of the era is the reason why. It isn't that he necessarily, wasn't writing a good story, because I think The Bones Are There is a pretty interesting story.
I think it's just too drawn out.
Yes, absolutely.
To fill those 3 45-minute episodes.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. I think that what they were trying to do is, excuse me, they actually filmed this story on location in Seville, Spain.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they were trying to make the most of the location setting. Like, okay, we spent all this money to travel over to Spain, so we might as well make the most of it. Mm-hmm. And so they kind of padded out this story, which is why you had that sequence where they go into town so you could get all the locale.
Right.
Instead of just staying at the hacienda.
Yeah, kind of like when they're in Paris. Yeah, like when the Fourth Doctor and them are in Paris, right? You wanted to see that, yes.
Yeah, and it does give the story a unique flavor.
I agree.
Because you have the Spanish guitar playing as incidental music throughout the episode.
I agree.
So it's not really typically like the synthesized type music from classic Who or what have you. So it kind of gives its own little flair.
Mm-hmm.
I think. All right, so let's dive right into the meat, as Shock Eye would approve of.
I saw what you did there.
Thank you. So let's talk about the two Doctors themselves, 2 and 6, the second and the sixth Doctor. Colin Baker joining Patrick Troughton. This is their first and sadly last meeting. But so what's your take on these two Doctors? Interacting with each other's companions and also with each other.
I was a little disappointed we didn't get more scenes together of the Doctors.
Right. As was I.
Yeah.
But I kind of chalk that up to Patrick Troughton's age.
Yes, I think so. This is such a small thing, Charles, but I like Colin Baker without his coat so much more than I do Colin Baker with the coat.
Yeah.
A lot of this episode, he's just in a shirt. He still has the, kind of wild shoes and pants, but he's just in a white shirt
with a Hawaiian vest on.
Yeah, and it just works so much better.
Yeah.
I do not. And I know this has been a lot of discussion, and there's been talk that, I've seen on DVD extras that the showrunner of Doctor Who at the time loved Hawaiian print shirts.
John
So,
Nathan Turner,
yeah,
yes.
so this might have
Yes.
been one of the reasons why he did that. But
I think so.
I just don't think they serve Colin Baker well with that costume, and I've talked about that before. So I like that. The few scenes they had together were good.
Mhm.
I especially liked, you know, the Colin Baker doctor
Mhm.
interacting with Jamie. And,
Yes.
that was really interesting. And I love the idea because they acknowledge and saying, well, how can you be the same person? I
Mhm.
am. And
Yeah.
they talk about this. And I love that every once in a while the sixth doctor would say, no, that's not how this was. And we have talked about I'm only 56, and
Mhm.
there are things, in my 30s I can't remember all the details about. So if you're years old, the
Yes.
doctor, it makes perfect sense you don't remember everything.
Right. Right.
Yes.
Especially after this would have been like 4 generations ago. So
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
hmm
Some
So
sometimes things get lost in the shuffle,
yeah.
but I agree with you. I think Colin Baker's Doctor works really well with Jamie McCrimmon,
Yes.
with Frazer Hines. And they've done a few Big Finish audio adventures with those two, where like Jamie or Jamie and Zoe have teamed up with the Sixth Doctor,
Okay.
and they've been really good.
All right.
So if you're in the mood, yeah, check those out if you want.
Okay.
Highly recommend them, um, because yeah, they work really well together, and because of Fraser appearing on the Two Doctors with Colin, they became friends, especially doing conventions together. So it kind of carries off that this friendship kind of comes through in the audio performances.
Yeah, I like that, and I think the more you watch, at least from my perspective, Charles, the more my admiration for Jamie as a companion
Hmm.
increases.
Right.
And I think there is not a lot of things I'm going to criticize modern Who about. It has got me on the show, it's got me hooked. I
Hmm.
love, you and I talk about them, but they've fallen into this male doctor, female companion,
Hmm.
unless, like Rory, and that was kind of connected to Amy. You get very few. You don't, you have that male female mix, and that's kind of the
You don't traditionally have a male doctor with a male companion, is
right.
what you're trying to say. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think in a lot of ways, Jamie shows you that with the right actor,
Hmm.
that could be a really fun um, interaction and a nice story point.
Dynamic.
Dynamic, yes, that's the word I'm
Yeah.
looking for.
Yeah. Now, during the Second Doctor era, it wasn't just the Doctor and Jamie traveling.
Right.
It was typically, originally you had, when Jamie first came aboard the TARDIS in the Highlanders, he was with Ben and Polly, who were leftover First Doctor companions. And then they left. This companion named Victoria joined the Second Doctor and Jamie. And then she left. And then Zoe
Right.
uh, was, they stayed right up until Patrick Troughton's last episode in the War Games,
hmm
and then they all left together.
Yeah.
So it wasn't really just him alone, but yeah, there's something about Jamie that because he's such a strong male character and he's so likable,
Yes.
um, he 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 comes off really great, and he can just, as this story proves, he can interact with any doctor,
Yes.
and
I
it
agree.
and it works because I just of the character, and I think Fraser Hines' natural likability, and it just works really
Yes.
well.
I do, and um, so yeah, I liked him a lot, and I
Okay.
enjoyed that.
And so we kind of also got to see Jamie with Peri.
Yes.
So we actually kind of got to see two companions, classic and at the time modern,
Right.
working together, which is kind of something you've been wanting to see.
I
Kind of
have.
kind of like when like Sarah Jane returned in School Reunion.
Yes. It was, and I have been lucky enough
Hmm.
to meet the actress who plays Perry.
Yeah,
Uh,
Nicola
yeah,
Bryant.
yes, and so Um, very lovely.
Mm-hmm. I'm so
Really,
jealous of you, by the way.
yeah, very fun stories. Um, I I smiled at the long distance shot of her like in a
Hmm.
swim top
Yeah.
when they're fishing. And I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
like,
she's got her tied up, like, yeah,
yes,
shirt tied up, like,
but
yeah,
at
so it's showing off
first,
midriff.
she's just in the top of the swimsuit, and you watch
Yes.
her, but they don't, and I'm like telling the camera operator, go in for a close up. She is very beautiful.
You big perv. No.
I am. Um, she's very beautiful, very charming.
Yep.
Um,
She's like
and it,
she's like that in Caves of Androzani too, I might
yes.
point out.
Well,
But
and we've seen Mark of the Ronnie, which
hmm
is the serial before this one.
yes.
So, I I just the headband made her look more 70s, I guess, or something like
80s,
Dazzler,
80s.
yeah,
Yeah.
Dazzler, or maybe
Yeah, that would be 80s, yeah.
yeah, 80s. So, it was. Yeah, I liked seeing her, and I liked her interacting. It was fun to have the two different eras,
Hmm.
doctors, and the two different companions interacting together.
Yeah.
And um, you know, I will talk about and this is not a big spoiler for Game of Thrones, but there are times when, like when Brienne was talking to
Brienne
Sansa
of Tarth.
and catching up, and
Hmm.
telling what last time she saw Arya,
Yeah.
going, they could just do this for an hour and I would be happy.
Right.
So I'd almost be happy the two doctors, the two companions fighting a crisis in the TARDIS. It could have been a bottle show. And
Yeah.
just interaction of the personalities, I would have been just drinking my, Diet
Right.
Coke, eating my popcorn, just loving it. So
Hmm.
how about you, Charles?
Yeah, I mean, that would have been a big like fan indulgence to do
Yes.
that because yeah, just you would have a lot more great character moments. I mean, you do have some here. Like I don't know if you noticed there's that uh like you know Jamie trying to steal a kiss from Peri like right at the end as they leave, and the whole like the Sixth Doctor and Peri kind of making fun of the second Doctor and Jamie doing the "after you, Jamie, no, after you, Doctor" as they get into the TARDIS. So there's little bits of that here and there. And now one of the things I really liked with Colin Baker's Doctor and Patrick Troughton's Doctor, one of the few brief interactions they really get, um, the scene where uh, they finally find the second Doctor and he's kind of tied up to the wheelchair, and the Doctor kind of like looks at him, down at him, and he goes, like we've gone through a lot to find you, something to that effect. And just it's kind of that kind of antagonistic relationship each doctor has with themselves, which I think is kind of fun.
Yes, and
They kind of ride each other a little bit, but these two doctors get along pretty well, I think.
especially for, this Colin
Hmm.
Baker's doctor is known to be, the grumpy one.
Yeah. Well,
It, it,
he's tetchy. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
and so yeah, really well done.
Hmm. Yeah. Okay. So why don't we move on? Let's now that we talked about the two doctors, we kind of talked about the two companions, I guess, a little bit as well. So that kind of dovetailed in that. So let's talk about the two monsters, and that's the Suntarans and the Androgons. So Jesse, this is kind of like your first taste of the classic Suntarans. This isn't exactly Strax from the modern era,
Yes.
or like when we saw them in the Centauran stratagem, which they finally returned to the modern era. So, and then this will give you a good chance to kind of pick on the show a little bit. I'm kind of guessing where your head is at on this one, but
Okay, go ahead.
so what's your take on the classic Centaurans?
Um, First off, I think
Mhm.
we have to acknowledge that a and this is a bad analogy,
Yes.
But I'm going to go, you can't hold and get ready to drink a Bruce Springsteen cover band
Yes.
to the boss himself. And I realize Dan Starkey came after the original,
Right.
but he is so good at playing a Centauran, whether it's, Dax or the others. And
Strax.
yeah, Strax. Yeah, thank you.
Dax is on DS9.
Yes,
but.
thank you. The it's there, and I'm gonna forgive the makeup because I understand, that's the way it is.
Right.
But they don't quite have that merciless, obsession with battle and fight. It's there a little bit, but the modern era and maybe later we see more of that developed. But
Yes.
it was fun to see them. I like them a lot better than the cannibal, aliens that we'll get to.
The Endergum.
Yeah, I wasn't impressed with them, but
Okay.
it was good to see them, not just because they weren't Daleks. It was good.
But they're familiar. They're a familiar monster.
Yes, it was fun to see them and seeing the history and kind of see, okay, this is where they're coming was really, really nice.
Okay.
So how about you? Now, am I being a little unfair, or
no? I think you're being surprisingly fair. I thought you were going to kind of rip on him a little bit.
Okay.
But yeah, essentially, yeah, this is kind of where they got their kind of, obviously, this is where their potato look generally took place, and because the makeup was much more limiting, especially like if you notice like around the mouth area, like it doesn't quite like they start talking, but it doesn't quite work like it doesn't look smooth. It looks kind of just put on and kind of cheaply blended in.
Yes.
And if you notice like the suit, there's like this circular ring collar around, like it's supposed to be a spacesuit, so he could put on this helmet. But it's so loose, like you're trying to figure out, like, okay, if this is supposed to be a spacesuit, they could just put his helmet on so he can work in space or whatever. Like all the air is right out the bottom.
Right?
Yeah, there's this gap. So like if he ran really fast, it'd be like clunk 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 clunk, all loose flying around there. I think that's kind of funny. But
I think it was really funny.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that now you talked about their persona, this kind of, I don't want to say Klingon like, because essentially they're almost like Centaurans, almost like a cross between, to use a Star Trek reference, they're like a cross between the Klingons and the Ferengi.
Yes.
I think like if you took those two races and you blended them together, you'd probably get something very similar to a Centauran. You kind of get that like warlike. When they first appeared in the Time Warrior, they're very warlike. They have the mission, and then later on they're kind of given this background where they have this war with this other alien race that we met once called the Rootans, and so they've had this long battle between the Rootans. And the Doctor kind of makes a comment that like it's gone on for so long, even we don't know how it starts. As long wars often do, we don't know who started it.
Right.
But so you kind of have that, but it's not until really the modern era that they kind of start playing them for laughs more.
Yes.
Like because they're so serious, but yet like they're just short little clones, short little warriors. You don't quite take them seriously.
Yes.
And the modern era is kind of the one to really jump on that and go like, well, okay, they're serious, and you can kind of bring comedy to that, like Strax does.
Yes.
Because of his militaristic reaction to everything, his approach to everything, and sometimes you can use that to comedic effect.
Right.
So.
Yeah, but overall, it was good to see them. So let's move into, because it kind of creeped me out, the chef wanting to,
We'll talk about the Endergums.
Yes, yes. Okay. So,
Shock Eye.
Yeah, he was irritating.
Mm-hmm.
She was a pretty good villain,
right.
along with the Elton John look-alike mad scientist, right?
The star, yeah.
Yeah. I thought they were pretty interesting.
He was a very 80s villain, wasn't he?
He was a very 80s villain.
He's got this big, like, silver pompadour
Yes.
with the, like, kind of frosted sunglasses.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the and they really reminded me
Mhm.
of the Doctor from Voyager.
Yeah.
He did.
The EMH, the emergency medical hologram.
No, the not the doctor, the chef. I made that same
Oh,
mistake. Yeah,
Neelix.
Yes, but they look nothing alike.
Right.
And I was like,
the bushy eye. They both have.
I think so. I guess so.
Yeah.
Yes, but we seen? Do they return ever, this villain?
No, they're a one-off. They don't return like the Centaurans do.
I can see that. Nothing. I mean, no offense to this alien race, but they were kind of a one note.
They're fictional, so
Yeah, I'm just saying.
I can make fun of them if you want to.
Yeah. I was not impressed with them very much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
How about now? What's your thoughts on them?
Well, I just kind of real quick. I just want to get your take on the whole evolution of Cassini.
Yes.
Now they kind of made a point of showing that despite all these scientific advances to try to evolve an androgam as a species, it's still basically an androgam no matter what. Like you have the scene where there's like the doctor's blood has been spilled. The sixth doctor's blood has been spilled by Shockeye after he kind of slices his leg open with a knife. And it's kind of spilled there on the steps outside the hacienda. And Cassini can't quite resist it. Like she has to go down and she kind of like is tempted and okay, I want it. No, I don't want it. I want it. I want it. And then she kind of reaches out with her hand and kind of licks her palm to lick the blood. But meanwhile, she, without her knowing, Dastari is way off in the background and he sees this.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, and so it's kind of his realization that all this effort I put into this, and she's still basically this primitive, flesh-eating creature.
Yeah,
Which
and
kind of turns the tables on her because Dastari ends up betraying Cassini, his creation.
it was just a little creepy, the whole obsession with, at first it's kind of funny when Jamie comes into the kitchen and they kind of make that joke. And then when they keep pushing that on, I just don't think it was executed very well.
Yeah.
I think, and it was like, okay, the doctor is trying to do a creepy storyline, but it just didn't work creepy for me.
Well, I don't think it was so much that it was trying to be creepy. I think it was trying to. There's a lot of metaphors going on for like humans eating animals.
Okay.
I think it was a big commentary on that because, like there's one scene where Shockeye is like he's kind of down on Earthlings, but then he finds out that like, well, they breed these creatures in captivity for food, and they have them in small pens, and that's kind of awesome. So I kind of dig that. I respect them for that. So, and then later on, because of everything that happens, the doctor makes a comment to Peri as the story ends that they're going to like the doctor's going to become a vegetarian, or they're going to have a strict vegetarian diet from now on. So I think this is kind of a condemnation almost of humans eating other living creatures for food.
Yeah, I thought that. I saw that kind of, especially with the ending, but it wasn't. Doctor Who has done a better job as classic Star Trek at times of telling a story with a moral and making it entertaining. This just didn't work for me on that level.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So, was there anything else about the story you would like to discuss?
The scenery was beautiful. We've already talked about how nice it was
Seville,
on live.
That's their
Um,
first time in Spain, so that's the only time they've really gone to Spain. So I think that's kind of awesome.
uh, it looked to me like they started the episode in black and white and
Yeah, I was going to
moved
talk
it
about
to
that.
color, and I thought
Yeah,
that was pretty slick.
I thought that was pretty clever too. I like the way that they kind of like kind of blended Patrick Troughton's black and white era into the modern color era,
Hmm.
which obviously was deliberate. But yeah, I like that a lot. I thought that was clever. And we
And
got to see the second Doctor's TARDIS.
yes, and a great scene where they say, "But isn't that your TARDIS? How can they
Hmm.
be at the end?" And he said,
Yeah,
"Well, ours is a 5 minute
and
walk away, so they're not in
yeah,
the same place."
yeah. And it's not really, yeah, it's the same TARDIS, but in from two different times. So yeah. But yeah, there's a great bit where like early on the episode, you see like Jamie reaches out to the TARDIS console, and the second Doctor kind of smacks his hand. And then later on, after Jamie changes his clothes and he comes out, he kind of fiddles with the TARDIS console. The sixth Doctor makes the same move and smacks his hand.
That was really nice. I think one of the things they missed on
Hmm.
is in the episode where, toward the end where, they catch the doctor and they all, they have to raise their hands. I kind of looked for them to try to mimic the same gestures,
Right.
and they didn't. Like, one of, Patrick Troughton's was all up and Colin
Yeah.
Baker's only this way, because
Yeah.
I was almost thinking, because
Like in the Day of the Doctor,
yes,
where
exactly.
they sit down and they cross their legs at
Yes,
simultaneously.
right. To
Yeah.
show that continuity. Yes, I
Yeah,
was.
yeah, that would have been good. I
Mm.
totally agree.
Yeah.
Although they did, there are some moments though, if you notice, where they say the same line together.
Yes.
Like they're responding to Peri or whatever, and they say something. They both say it in unison,
Yes.
so that does take place.
Right.
But I'm trying to think what else. Oh, now there's one thing that kind of like as a fan, watching this in the classic era, kind of threw me
Okay.
about this story was the Time Lord's recruiting the Second Doctor for a mission
Yes.
because essentially at this point he's a fugitive still,
Okay.
which is why when they catch up with him, um, he's that's he has to go on trial for stealing the TARDIS and running away from Gallifrey and all that. Um, so it's a little odd to me why they get this Doctor, especially since he's supposed to be a fugitive. Isn't he supposed to be avoiding the Time Lords? But he's essentially doing a mission. He makes a comment, the second Doctor does, that, it's one of the prices I pay for my freedom.
And
So,
Charles,
so is he really a fugitive at this point? Or is he just like, okay, I'm allowed to be a fugitive? I don't get it.
and I think one of the things I get confused on,
Hmm.
and because I forget where everyone the doctors are, especially in the classic. So,
Yeah,
yeah, that didn't affect me, but I could see now that you pointed up, it's absolutely, I agree.
right.
Yeah,
Okay. Just something that's kind of bugged me over the years. I just wanted
sure.
your take on it.
Hmm.
Okay. All right. Let's go into quotes of the episode. What's your favorite lines? There's a lot of good lines in this episode.
There are a lot of great lines. I loved the what's the good of a good quotation if you can't change it?
That was one of mine,
Okay, yes. All right, go ahead.
which is a perfect one to quote.
Yes, it is. It is very much.
Um, all right. So you did that one. Um, there's a great exchange at the beginning between the second Doctor and Jamie, where he goes, the second Doctor goes, Jamie, some of the most brilliant scientists in the universe have assembled here to work together in pure research. I don't want them to know that I've arrived. Jamie goes, why not? Second Doctor replies, well, just think of the commotion. They'll be all scrambling around wanting my autograph.
Yes, I like that a lot. I love the um, my companion is not for sale.
Hmm.
And I also like I guess this was a common shtick
Yeah.
of, you know, let me do the talking. And I'm going to go into that for a little bit. Um, that is something that my son Chris says often. Like when we will go to a restaurant, he had one of our favorite Tex-Mex restaurants. He had made friends with the wait staff,
Yeah.
and so he's like, "Okay, let me do the talking,"
Hmm.
because he's like, they're going to give him bigger portions or stuff.
Right.
So
Right.
I thought
I
that,
got this.
yeah,
I
and
got
I love that, and also going, just let me do the talking. You admire my diplomatic skills, then later, you
Yeah,
know, yeah,
Jamie calls him out on his
yes, it
diplomatic
was very
skills.
great. Yes.
Yeah, that was good. Any others?
Um, I did want to take. I thought one of the best ones was when you travel around as much as I do. It's almost inevitable that you'll run into yourself at some point.
Right.
Yeah,
Which is a very doctor thing to say.
it's a very doctor thing to say. Are
Yeah.
you trying to be funny? Phony?
Hmm.
Phony? Yeah, the punny. That was it. Punny.
Yeah,
I thought
punny.
that was great.
Yep.
Yes.
Um, now one of the last other quotes last quote I have is this parting shot from the second Doctor to the sixth Doctor as right before he gets into his TARDIS. He says, "Do try and keep out of my way in future and past. There's a good fellow. The time continuum should be big enough for the both of us. Just." And he pats his belly,
Yes.
digging the Doctor's waist, the
Yes.
waist size. I think.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty funny.
I thought that was really funny. Like I said, this was not a bad episode.
Hmm.
It just, I think a good editor, and I agree with you. If you could have got it to two 45-minute episodes, it would have been,
Hmm.
a little bit more enjoyable.
Yeah, and you did enjoy seeing Patrick Troughton as the second Doctor.
Yes, I did, and I wish they could have um, more scenes together.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
totally agree.
Mhm.
Okay, all right. No, we got that. I guess it's time to reverse the polarity once again.
Ratings.
Oh, right, right. Thank you for reminding me.
Yes.
Yes, let's do ratings first, then we'll reverse the polarity.
So we usually do numbers, but it feels like this should be a letter grade. So whatever the numeric version of a C,
Okay,
so I guess like
so they're probably seven, like a
yeah,
seven.
7, yes. So I would give it 7 chef knives.
Okay.
Yes. How
I was
about
a
you?
little more, I was a little more generous, probably because I grew up with this story,
Yeah.
watching it several times, and I just have fun watching the performances. I love seeing Colin Baker interacting with Patrick Troughton and the two companions and everybody. It's just great to see those characters again. Um, so I give this one 8.5 out of 10. Stattenheim remote controls.
Ah, nice. I like that.
Yeah, and okay, so now we'll reverse the polarity.
Yes, please.
All right, so you probably would think, well, let's see, is he going to talk about the Day of the Doctor because we've got two doctors there? Is he going to talk about school reunion because we had two companions meeting? So, no, I'm going to talk about Time Crash, which is this mini episode for a Children Need Benefit special in 2007, which was written by Stephen Moffat. And as you know, I'm sure a lot of you have watched this little mini episode. It's terrific, where we have the meeting of Peter Davison, my doctor, with David Tennant, a lot of people's doctor from the modern era. So for the very first time, and obviously introducing in-laws to each other, future
Yes, I was
in-laws.
going to say yes.
Um, so this episode takes place within the final scene of Last of the Time Lords, with the scene right where just after the 10th Doctor parts ways with companion Martha Jones, who we both sadly miss.
Yes.
He tries taking off, only for the TARDIS to spin wildly and sound an alarm. So the Doctor checks out the systems and comes across like he passes his fifth incarnation doing the exact same thing on the console. And then the 10th Doctor recognizes his past self, is overjoyed to see him, although he gently pokes fun at his particular eccentricities, such as the decorative vegetable,
Yes.
and also the unneeded, like the brainy specks that he points out.
Yes.
Um, So the Fifth Doctor's kind of annoyed. He hasn't quite recognized his future self, or hasn't quite
Right.
figured it out. So he believes his counterpart to be a fan who has broken into the TARDIS somehow. The Fifth Doctor realizes that the two TARDISes have merged, so he must realize that, oh, well, there's another TARDIS, so you must be a doctor, right? So it's like a paradox will cause a massive black hole. The 10th Doctor counters it with a supernova, a solution he remembers seeing himself perform in the same incidents, kind of like a bootstrap paradox.
Yes.
Because Stephen Moffat loves his bootstrap paradoxes, doesn't
Yes.
he? So the Fifth Doctor realizes the 10th is really his future self. The 10th reminisces as the 5th begins to fade into a separate timeline after the TARDISes are separated. As the time streams split, the 5th Doctor calls out, warning the 10th Doctor to put his shields up. But of course, it's the 10th. I'm too cool for school. I'm not going to put my shields up. And then all of a sudden, the starship Titanic,
Right.
collides with the TARDIS, which leads into Voyage of the Damned.
This is one of my favorite little mini episodes.
Yes.
Um, there is so much love in this,
Yes.
and it almost feels like David Tennant wrote this, even though he didn't.
Right.
But when he
Maybe
talks
he
about,
had a lot of input into the story.
it's got to be because you are my doctor, and there's a little bit stretch of credibility
Hmm.
because I don't know if a doctor would really have a favorite past doctor, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's okay. I
But
just,
keep in mind this was also a benefit for a charity special.
yes, it
So.
was. And so I just love seeing David Tennant talk about how much he loved Davison's doctor. And, we talk about the trainers and the
Hmm.
specs and just
Yep. Yep.
and
And the squeaky voice, and yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
And he makes fun of him. Oh, that's me. You'll be back because he's older now. But
Yeah.
he makes fun of Davidson's. Isn't that young face anymore? And that you'll be fine once you get back. And uh, a great choice. And I try to watch that every once in a while when I just want to smile. So
Yeah.
wonderful, wonderful choice.
Yeah, if you ever need cheering up, the Time Crash is a spectacular episode to just put on and enjoy for like 6, 7 minutes.
Yes, absolutely. Good.
Yeah, it's great. Okay, I think well, next time on Next Stop Everywhere, you're not going to be here, are you?
No, we are both of us are having hectic summers, but me more than Charles.
Yes.
He's very kind to take to work with me. So we're going to try to. I have a vacation planned in June. I'm going to be out of town for a couple of weekends, and so Charles is going to try to get Karen to step in with us, I believe,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Actually, I've spoken with Karen Lindsay,
Mm-hmm.
both of our secret podcast wives.
Yes,
Um, also a friend of the show who's guested on Next Stop Everywhere, and also my co-host on the Phantom Zone podcast, of course.
absolutely.
And so, yeah, she's going to fill in for an episode. We're going to talk about a Tom Baker episode,
Oh,
although
nice.
although Karen was supposed to get back with me today
Okay.
and about which story we're going to cover, so I could tell all of you. But sadly,
Okay.
she did not. So I need to get on her to find out what story we're actually going to review. But it will be a Tom Baker story,
Good.
one that we haven't covered yet.
Okay.
So look forward to that because Tom Baker is her doctor,
Yes.
and I'm always up for talking about a Tom Baker story, so no big deal there for me.
Yes.
And then Jesse will join us once again for episode 62.
Yes.
A couple weeks after that, and we'll probably talk about, barring any other unforeseen last minute changes, we'll probably
Yeah.
talk about a Fifth Doctor story,
Okay.
a Peter Davison story.
Okay.
So,
And then we may have to go in a very Doctor Who timey-wimey way. Um, I'd like to do another Tom, a Tom Baker episode with you. So
Well, yeah,
yeah,
that'd be fine. Yeah, we could do another
yeah,
Tom Baker. Yeah, we could
because
do that.
we're going from
We're
six
going 6 to 5. So
five.
yeah, I'll make sure you get your 4 in.
Okay, good deal.
So yeah,
So,
I won't leave you hanging. Just because Karen and I are doing a fourth
right,
Doctor doesn't mean you won't.
yeah.
So, uh,
So tell me, Charles, if someone
yes.
wants to reach you, how can they?
Well, they can reach the show
Yes.
first, of course, at Next Stop SMG on Twitter, and what's our email address? Next Stop Everywhere, or is it nextstopsmg@gmail.com?
I
Which one?
think it's
We should know this,
we
shouldn't
should know this by now. Yes.
I apologize,
That's
but
okay.
yeah, we should know this. But otherwise, yeah, you can reach us at Next Stop SMG on Twitter. We have our Facebook account, Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast. Of
Right.
course, you reach us there. You can reach me at Charles Skaggs on Twitter or at Charles Skaggs on Instagram. I'm on Google Plus for all you crazy kids in the Google Plus. I'm now up to 100 followers,
Wow,
so
nice.
that's kind of a big deal for Google Plus.
Hmm.
Um, let's see, Facebook, of course, and my blog of geeky things, Damn Good Coffee and Hot, where I talk about Doctor Who and Next Stop Everywhere and all the other like comic books, sci-fi, you name it. And hope you check it out, guys. And Jesse,
You
where can they reach you?
well, before I wanted to say, and you're giving a little love to Star Trek,
Yes.
so that you've had a couple of good blogs posts.
We've talked about the trailer just came out, the new trailer for Star Trek Beyond, which looks way better than the first trailer that
I
came
agree.
out. It actually feels like Star Trek in this
Yes, it
one.
does.
Um, so I'm happy about that. But yeah, we're talking. There's a lot on my blog about the upcoming Star Trek TV show
Yes.
that's going to be first debut on CBS, and then they're going to yank it and put it on their digital platform, CBS All Access, so they can get you to pay $5 a month or so, whatever it is,
And just like once
unless you
again,
stream it.
yes, unless just like Chris Jackson,
Yeah.
who complains about how bad the Cowboys are,
Mhm.
but he signs up for a New Jersey every year. I will sign up, Charles,
Yeah,
because
I'm sure you will not be the only one.
yes, I love me some Star Trek. Before we give my information, I did want to give a plug to on May 26th is Red Nose Day,
Yes.
and
I know you've been doing a lot with that, so yeah.
yes, it is a day to have fun and make a difference for kids. It's a charity to help children not only worldwide but here in the U.S. And
Mhm.
there's going to be a live special that noted Doctor Who fan Craig Kilborn is hosting.
Ooh.
So hopefully we'll get a Doctor Who shout out. Maybe not, but we can always hope.
That would be nice.
Yes, there's a lot of Southgate Media hosts. We'll be posting pictures of them in the red nose,
Hmm.
and they've asked us all to do a video that they're going to clip together to put on the webpage, and you'll be seeing of us talking about this charity. So that comes up on.
And you've already done a video, I believe,
I
right?
have done a video.
All
Yes.
right.
So Thursday, May 26th. Shout out to our boss Rob that we get this out before May 26th.
Yes.
Love you, Rob.
So
Um,
so that's your subtle hint, Rob. Yeah, we need
Yes.
this. We need this out quick.
Yes, I am at Jesse Jackson DFW. I also am on Facebook, Jesse Jackson in Louisville, Texas.
Mhm.
And I think that's it for now.
Well, what about your other blogs? You've got plenty of other blogs out there, don't? Or
Yeah,
I mean, not blogs, but I mean other
yeah.
podcasts.
I am to save time. I've gotten a little burned out, so I'm only doing one Set Lusting Bruce episode a week now. But I am.
You were hitting that pretty hard for a while.
I was putting it very hard. We just and then I'm currently doing a Game of Thrones podcast on the Tuning Into Sci-Fi TV network. Having a lot of fun about that.
Mhm.
A lot of Charles, If
Yes.
I can do a side thing just for a moment,
Oh,
I
go
am
ahead.
hearing a lot of complaining on social media, which is not a shock, but it's hitting
People
personal.
on social media upset about something
Um,
inconceivable.
Karen and I do a Castle podcast, and so we've got
Yeah.
a lot of people that are complaining about how ABC treated the show, rightly so. But they actually pushed to have the show canceled,
Hmm.
and then my Bruce fandom, there's a lot of people complaining about his set lists, and I'm like,
There are
he's
great. There are greater problems in the universe, people.
absolutely. One person actually, Charles, had the
Like, where is Doctor Who not back in
yes,
2016?
had
That's a
the
big problem.
gall to complain that if she known Bruce was not going to do the river in full in
Yeah.
Europe, she would have flown to the U.S. to catch one of those shows. Okay, that's a first world problem.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Oh no, they did not have to. They did
Right.
not play the Bruce Springsteen song I wanted, so therefore I have to fly to a different show.
So, and a couple people have said that they think this season of Game of Thrones has been slow. And I'm going, really? You can
Yeah.
see Charles's face. He's going,
Well, Saturday Night Live made fun of it, so therefore, like everybody's got in their head now that yeah, it's slow
no. I mean, I
because they dragged out Jon Snow's
yes,
resurrection.
but and I don't do
Yeah,
spoilers, but the amount of reveals and things that have happened this
things are
season.
things are moving now because
Yes.
we're in uncharted territory.
Yes, absolutely. So,
Yeah, so yeah, I'm digging this season. I don't
I
care
am.
what anyone says.
Yes,
I'm loving it. So
absolutely.
and you have American podcasts, don't you?
I
That you
am. Thank you for reminding. Allie is my podcast partner in Comrades, the
hmm
American podcast, which is having a really good season. So we're enjoying that.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it too. I'm catching up because we kind of got behind on season 4 because we had to get my wife Lori uh, watching season 3. She got into the show late. I'd been watching up till now, but so we're kind of now like halfway through season 4 that have the episodes that have aired to date, and it's been really great.
Yes, it has. Very good.
Okay, so I know that's not Doctor Who, so I
Oh, no,
apologize for that.
that's okay.
But
That's nice to
yeah,
do.
but yeah,
So Charles and
yes.
we got to get you. You're only doing two podcasts. I need to get you
And,
we need to get you doing other podcasts.
well, eventually, I hope to be doing a Twin Peaks podcast.
Yes.
But I need to find a good partner,
Yeah.
somebody that really appreciates the show, preferably a female.
Yeah.
If you're a female that enjoys, because you have to counteract my maleness, because
Right.
otherwise I don't want it to be a sausage fest. Okay,
Right.
I think it's much better when we have a male female balance. Apologize to you because
No, no, no.
we have kind of our bro thing,
Yes, we do.
but I think Twin Peaks is a show that I like to get a female perspective on.
Yeah, and I am not I am a casual fan at best. Now I am hoping you're going to
Mhm.
let me be on to kind of talk as a casual fan to, my perspective.
Right.
Yeah, you're right. You need someone
I
who
want someone who's a little familiar with the show that, kind of like me, that was into it way back in the day or recently got into it.
or
Um,
someone who might have a blog that's named after a line on Twin Peaks, right?
well, yeah, that wouldn't hurt.
It
Let's just say
wouldn't.
that. But we do have some time. The show isn't Twin Peaks isn't back until 2017 on Showtime. They
Right.
haven't even announced the air date yet, so we got some time. But I'll
Yep.
probably be doing that
All right.
eventually.
All right.
But,
So for now, thank you,
for now,
Charles.
yeah, thank you, Jesse. And do we have a quote
I
to sign off?
do. I'm a Time Lord, a man of science, temperament, and passion. And Peri says in a very loud voice.
Perfect.
Yes.
Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you around the universe and next stop everywhere. Bye.
Bye.